Okay, so we just picked up the ghost pepper.
Ghost
now we
pepper
need the
is
2
delicious.
other ones. So the next ingredient on our list is an albino egg.
Yeah.
Or an egg from an albino hen, anyway.
Which is basically just a white chicken.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, like you cannot make a good pork bun without endangering at least 3 or 4 kinds of animals. So I completely understand the whole, you know, poaching in Africa thing.
Yeah, you know.
You know, like
you have to make sure that you get the right ingredients.
Like fried rice. You ever had fried rice? The only way you can make a good fried rice is with like dried rhino horn, or like tiger penis. Like you just can't do it otherwise.
Everybody knows that the best way to make a pork bun is with the dough. Instead of water, you add a little bit of antifreeze.
I love how the cars explode everywhere. It's
just randomly. Drives me crazy because I'll be walking along and just. So the shopkeepers.
Oh God!
Alive.
They try so poorly to punch you.
What is
that guy's?
I don't understand what their deal is. I'm just.
And it's such a slow punch too. It's like, stop it! I'll punch you.
Yeah, no, it's like here it comes.
I need the egg of an albino head right away.
You want to fight Shang-Chi?
How did you know that? What?
Well, we have to assume that.
Does everybody except Wei know exactly how to make this thing?
We have to understand that Hong Kong, unless you're like a literal baby, you are basically a Taoist wizard.
Amazing.
Like, there's no 2 ways about it. Everyone is either a Taoist wizard or an infant.
And then there's these assholes. I need to stop saying that so much, but no.
They're like,
these
what do you
guys,
want?
these guys are just. I don't understand, like, why they didn't seem to be doing anything.
See, the thing is, what it actually is that we just beat up a couple of innocents to satisfy a schizophrenic shop owner.
It can be dangerous if he doesn't treat
Make
it
sure your brewmaster knows what he's doing. And now, what I would say is probably the most important ingredient. There's just shit blowing up constantly.
You gotta stop appearing like that.
Sorry, Wei.
You scared the shit out of me.
I said I was sorry. It's hard being dead, man. They didn't love me much when I was alive. But this is so much worse. Nobody lighting candles for me. Nobody making offerings. Never used to take that shit
Poor
seriously.
Vincent, man.
Turns
Fucking
out
sucks.
It matters, man. You really matter.
All right. I'm sorry, okay?
It just Wei's like, okay, I get it.
Hell, you're the first live person I've talked to who gets on the way to speak.
Yeah, well, I'm in a car. Nowhere for me to go.
Yeah, you're always a smart one, Wei. I'm gonna use it all for
Yeah,
now.
Wei was the smart one.
Cars. Places people got nowhere to run. That's great, man.
That's not really what I
Oh my god.
You just gave a very bad idea to a very dead person.
I sure did.
doing.
Okay, so there's an awkward cut there because this fight is actually really hard. All of these guys have knives.
Yep.
And then, like, 12 Jingxi show up.
Yep.
This fight caught me off guard and I actually died because I'm not used to being regular Wei anymore. I'm used to, like, end of game, you know, bullshit Wei.
Crazy ability. You're used to being Wei with the sword and Rico's gun arm or something.
Basically.
So, yeah, basically the way it works is that if you try and fight other gangs, vampires really don't like that, so they always sign up for the other guys, right?
Actually, the way that this specific thing works is that, as I recall, the game explains it as Smiley Cat really wants to take over the 18K because he's pissed about what happened to him in the Sun on Yi.
Oh, right.
And these guys are 18K who are trying to pick up the antifreeze so they can prevent that. And so the Jiangxi show up to prevent that and happen to catch you.
That makes sense. I'd buy that. That's a good storyline.
I'm okay with it, you know.
So, basically, we were never quite able to be sure why they're hopping. We had a couple of really good theories. I know you had one about transport for burial. Do you want to go into that?
I just seem to remember reading when I was, you know, looking into this stuff that at one point, one of the main ways to carry a corpse back to, you know, their hometown or wherever in certain parts of China was you would basically tie them to a stake, like a really big pole, and there would be a team of basically pallbearers, like 2 or 3 guys that would carry this back toward the hometown, right?
Yeah.
And and as they carried it, it would appear to be, you know, hopping up and down. And so people would see this shit moving down the road, more or less on its own from their perspective in the middle of the night, and they would freak the fuck out, as any reasonable person would. So that's what I've read, is that's why the whole concept of this hopping undead creature came about.
That makes sense. I had my understanding before consulting a Chinese authority on the subject was that essentially the dead, their feet are bound in some cultures, and so because their feet are bound, they can pretty much only get around by hopping. Now this doesn't really seem to be the fact of the matter since their feet are apart, so that didn't really work. So I asked a very smart person about it, and they said that, and this is the answer you get from the Chinese these days, is that because they're dead, they're kind of like trying to stay awake, so they're just jumping up and down to get pumped.
Good.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense too.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, because they get bad circulation.
Idiot. Most Chinese magic
Now-
based on antifreeze. Trust me.
That's a very important statement there.
Yes, and it is. It really is.
Think maybe you're
It
going
appears to
blind.
be. I've actually looked into this. Wikipedia has this fantastic article on one of the main ingredients of certain forms of antifreeze.
Diethylene glycol, the
Yes,
sweetener.
That happens to have a list dating from 37 to 2008 of all of the incidents, many of which had something to do with China, in which many people died from ingesting this stuff. The one that
Don't try
stands
this at
out to
home,
me-
kids.
The one that stands out to me is, well, first of all, in 2007, there's what Wikipedia identifies as the worldwide toothpaste incident.
It's an
We won't
incident.
go into too much detail about that, but I will say that there were fatalities. And that China initially said, oh, no, it doesn't have enough to be harmful. But where is it? There was Bangladesh in between 1990 and 1992, 339 children developed kidney failure and most died because of diethylene glycol.
Now, we're not laughing at people dying. We're
No.
laughing because of the fact that people were using this.
Olfart is the best in the business.
It's just
Well, if I go
so...
blind, I'm blaming you.
It's horrifying and,
Oh my God, it's terrifying.
mind-boggling. But the best thing was when they banned, what was it, the sale or the use of antifreeze,
Yes.
all of a sudden cases of renal failure dropped across the board in that country.
Yeah, it was...
So people were using it for everything, I suppose. It's just like keeping your household jar of antifreeze on your desks, when you
a
need a nip.
53% decline in the admission of patients with renal failure.
That's just so amazing.
It is, and this is in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Now, we're back to Kiliyagwa. I know that we've had this tea in us, and you may have noticed when Wei initially drank the tea, he kind of lit on fire temporarily. This is the ghost pepper at work. We've talked about that.
Yep.
But this basically replaces your face meters, since the undead aren't really impressed with you being a hotshot gangster or anything. Now you can light your fists on fire.
Yep.
And murder the crap out of them.
Yeah, you're
Do-
basically just the punch man of fate. You just kick the shit out of everything. And I really like the fact that he's going on a date with not Ping at the start of this, and she's dressed normal, but he's wearing like the traditional kung fu garb, including
So
the
good.
pointed shoe.
We will be wearing multiple different outfits as this progresses.
Oh,
of
that's good,
course,
that's
but
good.
It's important to note the one that he starts in.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of his heritage, right?
Yeah, that move, by the way, is such a pain in the ass because the Yagoi really doesn't have a lot of wind up before it jumps on you. So it catches me multiple times every time I have to fight one.
So, on the subject of ghosts, Chinese culture, one of the interesting thing is that no one wants to live near a graveyard. It's really interesting because, if you think of art in the West, if you look at most cities, usually there's a lot of historic
on.
graveyards people want to live around. But over there,
I want to
nope,
point.
don't want to
Can
live.
I point something out real quick
Yeah.
though? I mean that's an important point. I don't want to just cut you off.
No,
but,
not really.
While your face meter is charged in this game mode, you gain access to a different kind of execute. It's still the same thing. If you grab a Jiangshi while it's stunned, you'll execute this kind of fancy, execution move, where normally you just punch them. Wei slaps up one of those papers to their forehead first, and then does this like really elaborate, twin-fisted punch thing.
Yeah.
And I liked the animation for it, but what I really want to point out is that I actually went and read about this. Somebody took the time to translate what's written on the paper. It reads chocolate bacon.
Well, actually, there's one thing though, is that that might be what. Wait, you mean the paper that they slap on in this game?
Yes, the paper that he slaps on in this game says chocolate bacon. Watch. Somebody took the time to translate that.
That's amazing. I was wondering, like, maybe it's one of those things where the characters can have different meanings together, but I'm gonna bet that that's just the devs being fun.
It might be. Now here's another thing that's kind of important.
Ah yes, the Peachwood Sword. Classic.
And the game helpfully throws us a Yaguai to test it out on. You don't have to be in face mode anymore to hit a Yaguai if you're using a Peachwood Sword. It just works, and it works remarkably well, as you can see.
And the interesting thing with the Peachwood Sword is that fighting stance is, you'll also see that in all the Kung Fu movies where there's vampires. See, there's two things that work very well. There's Peachwood and old coins. Now the coins have to be hundreds of years old, but essentially if you make them, if you melt them together to make a sword, coin, 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 like in a straight line, that will be also as effective against the undead because of the lucky nature of these coins. Yeah. So people will keep them around their homes, as good luck charms.
Oh, the coins?
Old coins, Peachwood swords, coin swords. They're part of like the traditional Chinese panoply of things. A lot of this is gone from mainland China, but it existed and still exists in some places.
Interesting. I do like, by the way, the just random undead civilians most of them will run from you if they see the Peachwood Sword.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would run from a guy with a wooden sword anyway, because it's probably off his rocker.
I'm going to keep going into the Golden Koi for reasons that aren't immediately obvious and won't be until much, much later.
Oh, you're hungry. You're going to get some noodles.
Basically. I'm just checking. I'm also checking in to see, Vincent showed up there. Who might else, right? Yeah. That doesn't come into play until later, but it will.
I would totally have, noodles, with, a dead buddy.
Yeah, why not, right? But there's something I think is important that we should talk about real quick. Back there was a shrine.
Yes.
That had a fire lit in it, and Wei tossed what... I can tell you, it doesn't take money out of your in-game stash, but he does toss money.
Yes. The way that works is the Chinese. I keep saying Chinese, but this really refers to the set of religion that existed in the traditional culture of China and the areas. Is that the afterlife is pretty much the same as our life here. There's gods. There's a bureaucracy. There's people need money to get by, people have to pay rent, people have jobs. So basically, to make sure that the dead are well taken care of, specifically your relatives and ancestors, you'll burn fake money. Money that usually has a picture of the king of hell on it, in order to get this money to your family who are dead. So you'll burn millions of dollars of fake yuan or something like that, to be able to, million of fake dollars, not $1 million of real life worth of, because that's the thing, it just magically transmutes. The same thing, people will burn MP3 players, iPods, all made of paper and cardboard that look identical to the real thing, in order to provide these to their ancestors in the afterlife. And it's a neat side of ancestor worship. I find it kind of silly, but that's because I'm from a certain background. But it's interesting, on some days, like Tomb Swimming Festival, you'll go into the street and people are just burning huge piles of paper, just massive bundles of the yellow gold leaf paper, with, you know, string, and the city's filled with smoke, and like you're in the taxi or the car or something, and it just looks like the whole city's on fire. It's something else, and you're driving between piles of flame.
God, that sounds really just bizarre. It must be such a
It was a shock first time I saw it. Yeah.
It must really throw you off if you've never seen it before.
And I think we've run out of video, so I'd like to thank everyone for watching and listening to me talk.
About 45 seconds ago, but no big deal. It was interesting. Thank you, Cecil Tron.
It was a pleasure, and I just want to warn everyone, I'm not an expert, and what I say may be wrong, but a lot of it might be okay.
It's fine. You know far more than I do either way.
Hooray!
Yay!
Good night.
Good night.